Everyone, welcome to the high school quarterly content training. This is QCT for high school. So just want to make sure everyone is in the correct space. And this is with the Reading Language Arts department. Before we kick off this evening, if you would like to access this evening's presentation, which I highly encourage all of you do, just so you have access to all of the information and resources that we share this evening. You can either access it through the QR code on your screen, or what may be easier is to access the bit.ly links that are on your screen there. LaShawn, I'm not sure if you're able, you may have already done this, but if you want to drop those links in the chat. We also have a brief participants guide that you are welcome to utilize this evening as well. We do only have 1 hour together this evening, and there's quite a bit of information to share. So again, I'm going to do my best, and LaShonda will do her best as well, that we don't move too fast. But again, just so you have access to all this information, please open that presentation that we'll be sharing in the chat. I'll give you all about 30 more seconds if anyone needs to access these links. And then in regards to attendance for this evening, we will have a survey at the end that you will fill out, and that will serve as your attendance for this evening. So don't go anywhere. If you guys can, please do your best to stay to the end this evening. If for whatever extenuating circumstances, if you have to pop off early, feel free, shoot myself or LaShawn an email, or even let us know in the chat, and we can find a way to get that survey to you. If you have to pop off for whatever reason. We do know it's after school and life happens. So please, again, just let us know.
Okay, I just want, I'm sorry to interrupt. The presentation link, can you try it again?
And make sure y'all you're logged in to your Dallas ISD account. That may be a reason if you're not able to access. LaShonda, we have share with the district set up, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you can access it, make sure that you're logged in with your district account. Okay. Already said this is our quarter 2 QCT for Reading Language Arts High School. My name is Rich Miller. If you haven't met me, I see a lot of familiar faces on the call, familiar names on the call. A lot of my friends, shout out to Spruce High School. I see a lot of my friends from Spruce here this evening. So thank you guys for popping in just to get this information for quarter 2 curriculum. My colleague, LaShonda Watson, will be supporting me this evening. You guys are going to get to hear from me kind of the first half this evening, and then I will be passing the baton on to her to close us out on the back half. Both our phone numbers and emails are there on the screen. I believe we'll have that information available as well at the end if you don't get that information here and need to follow up with us for any reason. Okay, so just to kick it off, little icebreaker. As y'all know, State Fair opened this past weekend. What do you enjoy most about going to the State Fair? Is it the food, the rides, the exhibits, or is it the legend himself, Big Tex? Feel free to drop a number in the chat. And if you want to add a rationale or reason for why you enjoy that aspect of the fair the most, we would love to hear from you. Awesome. Wide variety of responses coming in. Love it. Most of us like the food though. Can't say I blame you. My favorite here, Miss Mellon. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. He's Big Tex. He's horrifying and I love him. That's great. I love it. My memories from the State Fair growing up, whenever I would attend, I would probably go number 4 as well, Big Tex. my problem with the state fair, I would normally start off with the food. So I would start off kind of in number order here. I'd go with the food, and then I'd go to the rides, and then I'd be, feeling pretty nauseous after partaking in the food and then the ride. So then I just kind of remember nauseously wandering around the exhibits. So I'm going to go with 4 myself. Big Tex, just a legend, and a classic. Awesome. Saw someone on here. Yeah, don't blame you for avoiding the crowds or the traffic, Miss Alexic. Saw someone on here, so they've never actually gone. If you haven't, it is, pick a year that you just feel like you have an extra burst of energy, which I know in our profession this time of year is rare, but certainly worth it. But again, a lot of traffic, both cars and people. So yeah, might want to pick a day that you feel you've got the energy for it. Awesome. Thank you all for sharing. And so we're going to go ahead and proceed. So just our agenda this evening, I'm going to kick you guys off with quarter 2 and an ACP blueprint overview. The way we're structuring this evening, I'm going to do a brief overview reminder just of how to access curriculum and what features can be found in the RLA high school curriculum. Most of this is stuff, if you guys were back to school back at the beginning of August, you should have picked this up. We know it's always a good refresher for people, just sort of a reminder where to access things and kind of what features you can see. And then I'll also speak to a few additions that you may see in quarter 2. And then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the ACP blueprint. This is where it gets a little more specific for quarter 2. And I know normally we want to do that backwards design and think about assessments before curriculum. But again, just for tonight, it's going to be kind of a brief overview curriculum, and then we'll kind of get more into the weeds with the ACP, because that is what we're building up to in quarter 2, as we all know. So we'll look at the blueprint, and then we're going to give you guys an opportunity, not long, but about 10 minutes to dig into at least the first week or 2 weeks of quarter 2 curriculum with that ACP blueprint in hand. And just give yourself a chance to familiarize with those first couple of weeks, but kind of be thinking with the end in mind, be thinking about where you're seeing opportunities to set your students up for success at the end of the semester. Then I'll kick it over to LaShonda, and we will go a little bit deeper on engagement strategies that we can be utilizing in the high school classroom. And so talk a little bit more about, okay, how can we utilize these resources that we have in curriculum, but make them presentable and in a high engaging fashion for our students. Okay. Gonna get some crowd participation. So I'm gonna read the learning objective here, and then if I can have a volunteer when I'm done, come off and read success criteria 1. And then if we can just go in order, someone just hop off popcorn one at a time, reading through the success criteria all through 4. So our learning objective this evening is I am learning to internalize the quarter 2 high school curriculum. Can I have a volunteer really quick read success criteria 1?
I can access curriculum resources through Curriculum Central.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. And success criteria 2?
I can compare the alignment between quarter 2 curriculum and the assessment of course performance.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Success criteria 3?
Okay, if I can see it, I can identify strategies used for student engagement.
Thank you, Ms. Alexic. And last one, success criteria 4.
I can choose engagement strategies to use within the quarter 2 curriculum.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Okay, so we're going to kick it off with success criteria 1. I can access curriculum resources through Curriculum Central. And I will actually just model it myself here. And so feel free to follow along with me as I go through. All of these slides are kind of set up step by step here in this presentation, but just so you guys can sort of see firsthand how someone might get there. Probably the easiest way to get there is through Clever. Now, it's worth noting we do have it linked on these images, the Curriculum Central that is linked on the image that you see on your screen here on the left, but you can also get into Curriculum Central through Clever. I'm going to, again, if you guys are in the presentation, this will be a little bit easier. So I'm going to go straight to the site here. and it's going to take me straight to the DISD Curriculum Central. Again, if you guys don't have the presentation pulled up, you can get there through Clever on that little icon that says DISD Curriculum Central. Okay, when you are on this homepage for Curriculum Central, under Content Departments, if you just hover over, you will see that drop down and you will see RLA Dual 2324 pop up. It's that second line there. So if I click that, this is going to take me to my Reading Language Arts grades 3 through 12 focused IPC curricular resources. So if I just hover over the image of this spreadsheet here, I can open it in a new tab. And the spreadsheet will pop up. Now be careful because it will take you to K2 on this first tab. So when you look here at the bottom, you will see 23-24 English 1 through 4, which is where we want to be doing our work or accessing our work, that is. And this gives you access to English 1 through 4 resources. Please note the year at a glance, which we did share at Back to School, is on this green line here at the top, going across. That document is linked, and that's just kind of a one-page breakdown of all of the units and TEKS that will be covered in each quarter. Beneath that, you will see all of our Q1 links followed by our Q2 links, and these were the links that were just uploaded a few weeks ago. And that's what we're going to be diving into this evening. I do want to speak one area of clarification because this is why I wanted to get into this with all of you this evening. And it's a question that we've had fairly frequently throughout Q1, and understandably so. These are new resources and new documents for high school. These are our focused IPCs, which I'll go a little bit deeper on the presentation here in a moment. But you will obviously note there are 10 weeks in Q2. I want you all to know that we are highly aware of that. And I want you to know that we have not overlooked that in our planning and in our curriculum design. The way that these focused IPCs, and I'm just going to open up one here, for example. I'll go to Q2 week 2 for English 2 here, for example. The way these IPCs are designed are by week. And they are fairly similar to in the setup to how we organized our previous IPCs, which were full documents that had the entire quarter, almost like a full calendar. These new IPCs are weekly. And so that just gives us opportunities to internalize and go a little bit deeper in each of the day's lessons. And so if you look on this document here, for example, because we know our high schools are on that block schedule, so these are designed by AB days. And there are 3 AB days in each weekly document. Now, obviously, that is 6 days of instruction and not 5 days of instruction. So because you have that design, whenever both LaShawn and I covered all of our instructional days for Q2, it only filled up 8 documents. Now, that said, there are still instructional days for 10 weeks available, and all of these only see links through Q2 week 8. So again, every instructional day for 10 weeks is covered. It's just because these weekly focused IPCs, the way they're designed with 3 AB days per week or per document, and that's how the old IPC was designed as well in our calendar, where you had each week was 3 AB days. So you essentially had 6 days going across in a week. So nothing different there other than we have broken these up into individual documents just so that we could provide more resources and more information within each AB day there. So again, I know that's a question I probably will still get throughout Q2, but just for those of you here, we wanted to speak to that. Every instructional day is accounted for 10 weeks, just because each week covers 6 instructional days. That's why you see that. There's only 8 weeks of documents there. Okay. Am I clear on that? Are there any questions? LaShawn, if there's anything you want to speak to on that, hopefully I didn't confuse anyone there, but that is something I wanted to address with you all this evening.
No, that was good. There was an issue with access for week 2, but it's been corrected.
Okay, yeah, And actually, right before we hopped on, LaShonda, I think I sent you an email because I had a principal ask about that. So good deal. So those English 2 documents should be accessible now. Okay, so all of this information you see in the slides are things that I've spoken to that took you all through step by step. So as you dig into those curriculum components for RLA, and again, this is review, so I'm not going to go deep in the weeds here. We do have our year at a glance. Those weekly focused IPCs are what are linked on that spreadsheet. Within the weekly focused IPCs and within each day, you have our structured lessons are linked to each day. Now, that doesn't just link to a big deck for that week. It links to each individual day within the structured lessons on that focused IPC. Within those structured lessons, daily, you will see formative assessments. Oftentimes, these are in the form of exit tickets and should be labeled as such. So that's daily within the lessons that you see. Now, quarterly, we all know our common assessment is quickly approaching, and I believe we're actually in that window now as we speak. And then our ACP will be Q2, or at the end of the conclusion of Q2, which is, again, what we'll be building up to here this evening. Okay, these are the year at a glance documents, and those were what are linked on that green line at the top there. If you are in this presentation, each of these documents should be linked as well. So if you just wanted to access the year at a glance from the presentation, it's there for your easy access. Okay, the weekly focused IPCs. And again, this is review from back to school, but we know these are newer documents. LaShonda and I didn't get the chance to present these at back to school because, again, you know, we are a fairly large district. So we had, most of you probably heard from a different presenter. But LaShonda and I had the privilege of being in this work and creating these documents over the last, what feels like a year, but the last few months. But just to speak to it briefly, and you can kind of see the format here. I already said within each document, there are 3 AB days. What we have done is identified on each day what is a primary or focus TEKS for that lesson. But that said, we recognize as reading language arts teachers, you know, our content is a little bit more complex, a little bit more subjective than, say, other departments such as math. And so, you know, we know that we're not always just teaching one skill each day. There's a lot of different skills that intertwine and weave throughout each lesson. So we have identified as well bundled standards or bundled TEKS that also students are growing mastery in each day. We have also written learning objectives and success criteria for each day's lesson. We have linked to the HMH digital textbook there. Again, that's generally much easier on your side to access through Clever. But we also have our structured lessons linked there on that next line. And then another feature that we are excited about on this focused IPC, we have, and I'll speak more about TSI and SAT in a second, but we have linked on these icons into the lesson anywhere there's a short constructed response, which is what SCR stands for, or an extended constructed response. These icons link directly to those item types found within that day's lesson. So that way you're not having to necessarily scroll through the entire lesson to identify those item types. But where you see those new constructed response item types within a lesson, we have them linked directly for your easy access in this focused IPC. There's not an example in this week of an ECR, but that icon, I believe, is blue, if I'm not mistaken, and just says ECR. The TSI SAT icons there, that might be on the next slide here. I click through, get all my red boxes coming up here. But those TSI and SAT icons, what we have done, and this is in support of our, primarily our English 3, English 4 teachers, but this is really just to support our students with post-secondary success. These icons are on all of our core courses, English 1 through English 4. What we have done is, we've done just some digging and some research of just what TEKS kind of build up all the way from English 1 through English 4 that build those skills that students need to have success on those post-secondary assessments. So within the structured lessons on those decks, anytime that there is an activity or a mini lesson gradual release, whatever it is within that lesson that is building student skill or capacity that is going to help them down the road, not just if you're English 1 and 2, not just for their EOC, not for STAR at the end of the year, help them beyond your class and help support them for that post-secondary success. You will see icons that say TSI, SAT, and I have some examples that you'll see here in a second that just sort of indicate that, okay, in this activity, in this mini lesson, those skills are being built for our students. So that's where, and so we've linked on the focused IPC to a particular activity or lesson that we felt was probably, contributing to that the most within that lesson. That's what that is linked to on the IPC. Now that said, again, to speak to just all the skills that we address in RLA, a lot of those skills sort of intertwine and weave in almost everything that we do. If anytime a student is making an inference, we're preparing them for post-secondary success, right? So you will see those icons in the structured lessons on not every slide, but what feels like almost every slide. Okay, so I spoke to that iconography. Beyond that, we know our structured lessons, and if you're fairly experienced in the district, you're familiar with the framework we use with do nows, our learning objectives and success criteria, talk, read, talk, write, gradual release framework. You see a lot of these structures within the curriculum. I spoke to earlier, you will see exit tickets on almost every single day of instruction. A lot of those exit tickets, you obviously will have your multiple choice and new item types related to multiple choice type. You'll see those types of exit tickets. A lot of exit tickets, though, are short constructed response because we're wanting to build student capacity in their writing. We've also added extended constructed response prompts aligned, and this is, again, primarily English 1 and 2, of course, but we've added those extended response prompts that are STAR aligned, but also, we believe are best practices in that they are aligned to the text that students and the content that students are engaging in class every single day. Okay. I spoke to the icons. Here is what you will see in the structured decks. The slide will be at the beginning of each week. This just sort of speaks to what those icons mean and why they are on the decks. And these are more for you as teachers, just kind of as you're internalizing each lesson to know, okay, here's where my TSI and SAT supports appear. Again, I said every lesson we have a learning objective, success criteria pre-written for you. Talk, read, talk, write I spoke to, so you will see this frequently in lessons, oftentimes as kind of a pre-reading activity to help build student background knowledge about a text. The gradual release framework that we follow. I do, where you, the teacher, are modeling an activity or a skill. We do that guided practice where you're slowly, you're bringing students into the process. Sometimes that looks like you're really just passing on that independent mastery to students and action to students, and then we're building them up to have that capacity over the course of a lesson to express what they've learned through the UDO through their own independent practice. And again, many times that comes in the form of the exit ticket that students will complete at the end. And again, a lot of these, they will always be aligned to the text that was read in class that day. And so you will have multiple choice questions. You'll have those new item types like you see on the screen, a multi-select. Many days there will also be that short constructed response prompt that I spoke to as well. Here's an example from English 2 of an extended constructed response prompt that we have added into curriculum this year. Again, these are EOC aligned, and again, primarily English 1 and 2 here. But again, for my 3 and 4 teachers, just kind of be seeing like those supports that students are receiving in 1 and 2. We know a lot of English 3 and 4 teachers, you have retesters in your class. So it is important that you're maybe looking back and seeing what resources are available here that your students can be engaging in as they prepare to retake, whether it's EOC 1 or EOC 2. We do have those ECR supports that you're more than welcome to have access to utilize in your instruction for those retesters. Okay, so that's just, again, not a lot of new information for those of you that were back to school, but just a kind of fresh reminder before you guys are given the opportunity here in a minute to jump into quarter two. But just a reminder there of kind of what that framework looks like. In terms of assessment, so thinking about how quarter two curriculum is preparing our students for the assessment of course performance. I want you guys to utilize what is available to you on the screen. So the ACP will be in December at the conclusion of quarter two. Just, you know, nothing here is too new from what we've done in the past, but a good reminder, English 1 and 2 does have those new item types that students will see on the EOCs. So the multi-part type questions, multi-select questions, students will definitely see examples of those on ACP. English 3 and 4, those new item types are not there. So that's not an area where, you know, our 3 and 4 teachers need to stress as much. The more of those, just the traditional multiple choice questions, which obviously will also make up the English 1 and 2 ACP as well. Where these two are similar, all of them will be in Dan. There is no writing on the ACP. So there is no reading short constructed response. There's no extended constructed response on the ACP. I know last year there was a writing addendum, I believe, added to Common Assessment 3, which for, you know, 1 and 2 was the release star. LaShonda, I don't know if you've heard different, no information as far as I know on that right now. As far as whether or not they will do a similar addendum in the spring, but that is information to be looking out for, and that we'll be certain to get out to you guys when we have an answer on that. But at this time, at least to my knowledge, no decision has been made on that for this year. So for the ACP, we just need to know it's all multiple choice and then the multiple choice new item types. And all district assessments have TEKS blueprints, which, speaking of, on the right side of your screen here, we have those blueprints linked for you this evening. I encourage you right now, if you are in the presentation, click on the link for your grade level or grade levels to access those ACPs, because you are going to need them for an activity that we're going to engage in next.
And I want to add something. So
Please.
when you're looking through the weekly IPCs and you see the focus TEKS for the day, that one focus TEKS, also pay attention to the bundled TEKS, because the ACP blueprints are aligned to both what are the focus TEKS for that day and the bundled TEKS. So you may be thinking, like, if, let's say, for instance, you look at the English 4 weekly IPC and you look through all of them and you're like, well, it doesn't really seem to jive with what's on the ACP. If you're just looking at the focus, if you're just looking at the one TEKS that's focused for the day, take a look at all the TEKS that are focused for the day and you'll see that there's more alignment there. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, thank you for speaking to that, LaShonda. And to that point, we did our best to make the primary focus TEKS that appeared on ACP. But that said, you know, we also just want to engage in best practices for our students. You know, we know that all these skills are vital to their long-term success. So we did our best to, you know, make our primary focus TEKS that they would appear on the ACP. That wasn't always feasible depending on the text that students are engaging in. But if, you know, that said, and if it was a TEKS that doesn't appear as a primary focus TEKS, I guarantee you it is very frequently bundled in those bundled standards. And keeping in mind as well, you know, these are TEKS a lot, you know, this is a accumulation of the entire semester. So many of these TEKS were also covered in quarter one as well. But yes, thank you, LaShonda, for speaking to that. Okay, so access that ACP for your grade level or grade levels if you haven't already. And then what we want to give you guys and utilize this time to do, and this can be independent work. I don't know how many of you are colleagues that are working with your teacher teams or groups there where you are. So, you know, this can be some collaborative work time, independent work time, but also just space for you to get into the quarter two curriculum and for LaShonda and I to just be available and accessible to you to answer any questions or any things that you may notice that may come up. But that said, so going into Curriculum Central, look through an instructional week of your choosing for your grade level. I might just recommend weeks 1 and 2, utilize those first 10 to 15 days of instruction. Again, everything is accessible to you in that focused IPC document. So the structured lesson decks, all of the exit tickets or constructed response for each day, additional resources, all of that is accessible to you in that one document. And as you're doing that, encourage you to have that blueprint up next to you for ACP and answer the following questions on your participation guide. And you can do that on participation guide. You can do it on your own notes, however you so choose. But just be paying attention. What TEKS are covered in your week? Are any of those TEKS assessed on the ACP blueprint? What are the LOs and SCs? What activities are students engaged in during the lessons? And I would even kind of tweak that question to, what are engagement opportunities within that lesson for my students? And then how is learning assessed at the end of the lesson? What does that exit ticket look like? What does that constructed response at the end look like? And then as you are wrapping up your time, we're going to encourage you to share your findings about whatever week you've looked into by creating a hashtag that encompasses it on the Jamboard that is linked here. And so this hashtag activity is going to be relevant to what LaShonda will be taking us through after this section. But just do your best, come up with a hashtag and on that Jamboard, and I'll actually go and open it up here for you all. We have a different page for English 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can just write on a sticky note, your hashtag, hashtag poetry rocks, whatever hopefully your hashtag and your findings carry a little bit more weight or depth than what I came up with on the fly there. But add that hashtag to your respective grade level just to sort of represent your findings. Okay. Again, this is independent work time, collaborative work time, but this is also, LaShonda and I would love to keep this open dialogue, open question time as well. So as you're digging into the work, as you're doing these initial steps of planning, or maybe you've already looked into these documents in the past 2 weeks, we want to be available here to answer any questions or concerns that come up. I've got 10 minutes here on the timer that I'm starting now, and you guys feel free to engage in the work. If you want to turn off your screen, if you're doing independent work time, that's fine as well. And as I said, feel free to let us know if you have any questions. LaShonda, did you have something?
I linked or dropped the links of in the chat of all of the ACP blueprints, and I also linked the Jamboard in the chat as well.
LaShonda, can you drop the survey link to me directly in the chat? I'm going to share. I have some people that have to hop out early. I just want to make sure they have access to that.
Sixth grade just did it.
Yeah, we've got about 2 minutes left. Don't forget to be dropping those hashtags into the Jamboard if you haven't already.
Yeah.
We will shout out a few of those here when 2 minutes is up. So if you haven't done your hashtag yet, make sure to drop that in on your grade levels page.
We have one for English too. Woohoo!
Thank you. You too. Sorry, was this the almond milk or no? Yeah, the almond milk. Okay, cool. Just checking. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Can you please make sure that you're on mute? Thank you.
Okay, y'all, that is our time. Gonna check out what we have on our hashtags. English one, my English one people. Leaving me blank over here. English two, hashtag paired passage strategies. Come on, that's right. And hashtag character archetypes for Mr. Ramirez. Yes. Thank you guys. English two showing up tonight. Oh, hey, awesome. English three, not a hashtag, but a notice. Blueprint does coordinate with TEKS. One thing I noticed was number of questions per scope and juggled from previous years. And yeah, that's absolutely an accurate observation for sure. That is something, and LaShawn and I have had the privilege of getting to work closely with our assessments department in vetting both common assessments and ACPs, but particularly these ACPs. And so that is something we're learning in that process, as this is both mine and LaShawna's first year working this closely with the assessment department, which is such a good relationship that we're forming with them. And obviously just for alignment, I mean, it's vital that we're close in the work together. But yeah, that is something that they juggle a little bit each year. I can tell you again, this is more on the assessment department side, but I can tell you they are looking at all of that state data when making these decisions. So they're taking into account, how many questions per TEKS did we see on state assessments last year. So that's absolutely intentional. It's not just a random, let's, just mix the numbers up this year. Those are decisions made with close intention. So yes, thank you for noting that.
One other thing I want to note is that I know that 4F seems a bit heavy, and that you'll also notice that 4F is used when assessing or labeling paired passage questions. And so basically that was a lead from the state a couple of years ago. I don't know if you all remember this, but there was, if you looked at the answer choice or the answer document for the STAR, most of the questions were 4F. It was like no other TEKS existed. It was just the 4F show.
It was like 75% of the assessments.
Yes. And so slowly the state is moving away from that. And so I think you will see that same trend happening within the assessments department as well.
Yeah, thank you, LaShawna. Absolutely. My English one peeps showing up. Comprehension skills, come on. 9C, 9DE. 9C, 9D, 9E, revised and editing, yes. And I know I spoke about short constructed response earlier, but we do as well, LaShawn and I both for English 1 and 2 in particular, we have worked in a lot of the writing short constructed response practice. LaShonda, was it English? I'm going to get these mixed up. English 1 and 2 both had writing SCR, correct?
Yes.
Right. So we did see the writing short constructed response on STAR this past spring. I think it was English 1 did not have reading.
It was English 2 that didn't have a reading SCR.
English 2 did not have reading SCR. Correct.
Right.
So we know that writing SCR is coming and is out there. That is one area where we anticipate our students needing a little bit more support. So you will see lots of writing short constructed response support in curriculum, and we have added it, and I can speak to this for both English 1 and 2. We have added it in natural areas in the writing process where it is embedded when students are working on an essay or extended constructed response prompt. Whenever they then go in the revision process, those lessons include writing SCR practice that then ties in with the revision of their own essays. So, it's not just dropped in there randomly to, be there. We've done our best to add it with intention and in a way that is best practices for our students. And yeah, come on, with that said, process of writing. Okay, we're running short on time. So I want to kick it over to LaShonda so she can talk about engagement strategies. But if you guys have any other questions or wondering, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll be here to answer those. We'll also stick around at the end to answer any other questions that may come up.
Excuse me, I have a real quick concern. So I just was able to get on my computer. I've been listening on my phone, but for the structured lesson for English 2, I still don't have access to, for week 3, 5, 6, and 7. I can't open the structured lesson at all.
Okay, I can take a look at those right now
you.
and make sure those are accessed. And just a reminder, make sure you're logged in with your district account, but I will make sure that we have that access set up on our end as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
To do this.
I'm going to stop your sharing
Oh.
and go to my screen now really quickly. All right, so just in the chat really quickly, how many of you all have heard of Elevation? Just like on a just yes or no. Okay, yes. Okay,
Yes.
awesome. Okay, how many of you all have actually used Elevation? I'll see that in the chat as well. Okay, let me get back to the chat. Okay, so Ms. Smith, you have, okay, Mr. Ramirez, it's okay. It's okay, only once. Okay, so some people have gotten training on it. Okay, awesome. Rich, I'm gonna ask that you go ahead and share your screen again. And we'll finish out the presentation like that. So just really quickly, Elevation is a platform that has about 100+ strategies for engaging students and differentiating instruction. The point of Elevation is to provide a point of access for all students for all content areas. All right, so while I'm going to just talk us through a little bit, and there are 4 elevation strategies that we are focusing on teachers getting used to using with students. So, because there's so many of them, like there's 100+, right? So this quarter we're focusing on 4 in particular, but let me go back a little bit. So the purpose, like I said, is to provide engagement, a point of entry for all students. And you also see the different purposes for engagement, ranging from building background to advancing biliteracy. So even though there is a focus on helping our second language learners, these strategies can be used for all students. Okay, I'm ready. All right, so when you get to the platform, because you can access a platform through Clever. When you get to the platform, you will see the category under which the different strategies fall. So you have Fortify output there at the top, and then you have the different engagement strategies that are listed underneath that particular category. So as I said before, we are focusing on 4 in particular: the writing windows, expert and novice, QSSSA, and the inside outside circle. Now, if you are familiar with engagement strategies, you will see that many of these are not new. You may recognize some of these strategies, but they're called something different on this platform. Okay, so as we know in education, there's nothing new under the sun, right? We're always reinventing the wheel, but the main thing that we want to be purposeful with is making sure that we are engaging our students and making sure that we provide an access point for all students. Okay, Rich, I'm ready. All right, so we have the first strategy there, writing windows. So basically, if you have an image, this strategy can be used if you can have the students look at an image, write what they observe, share their observations with a partner, and then eventually that will lead them into writing some type of descriptive paragraph about that image. And there's also a graphic organizer that goes along with the strategy as well. And there's also a video that provides instruction for teachers on how to use the strategy. Okay, and then you have QSSSA, which will involve students verbally responding to a prompt using a structured format for conversation, which can be very helpful for our second language learners. Okay, ready to switch over. All right, and so then we have the inside outside circle. So to me, this is a little similar to the fishbowl strategy, but it gives the students an opportunity to practice speaking, using academic language, using academic vocabulary, and speaking to various classmates on a particular topic. And I know I'm going really fast, but I want to be respectful of your time. And then you have the expert and the novice. So the students are paired and they will take turns being the expert and sharing the knowledge, and the novice in receiving the knowledge, and then they'll switch roles. Okay. All right, so for this next success criteria, I can choose engagement strategies to use within the quarter 2 curriculum. So really quickly, basically what I did here was found opportunities within the curriculum for which these strategies can be used. All right, really quickly, Rich. All right, so this is in English 1. The students can use the QSSSA strategy because there's already a sentence stem there provided within the curriculum. For English 2, the students can use the writing windows because they are looking at a particular image and writing what they see, and they can do this before they actually answer these questions that are on the slide deck. So again, giving all students a point of access. All right, ready? We have the inside outside circle that can be used for this discussion question for English 3 when talking about this poem by Walt Whitman. And lastly, for English 4, the expert and novice strategy can be used to answer this particular question in English 4 about the sonnets that they would be reading for that particular day. All right, and so if you want to find out more about Elevation, again, there are slides that were not presented, but they are part of the presentation, so you can find out more information about Elevation through those slides. There are videos that are linked as well for your information. Really quickly, we have more resources that are available for teachers. We have Edgenuity and MyPath, which are under the umbrella of Imagine Learning. And you can see there the things that they can be used for. I do want to talk about Edgenuity for a quick second. TSI and SAT are very important. I know that our English 3 and 4 teachers seem to feel left out a lot of times because we talk about STAR a lot, but Edgenuity is an invaluable resource for TSI and SAT prep. And of course, we have Read 180 that is available to schools who have already selected to use it for this school year. And that program provides tier 3 support for students.